Thank you for joining us for our new anime podcast. I am Jim Purcell.
And I'm Zach Hawkins.
And we welcome you to this new show, this new experimental show, where two of us, a couple of anime-loving chuckleheads, kind of just take a stroll down memory lane of all the OVAs and films and short series released on mostly on DVD, some recently on Blu-ray, but mostly on DVD, back in the exciting days of the anime boom.
Yeah, 90s really, early 2000s and late 80s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
A lot of stuff, you mentioned DVD and Blu-ray, but a lot of it is still actually stuck in VHS hell.
Yeah, there's more than a few things that I have not made the jump even to DVD. Like Robot Carnival is a good example of that.
I know.
Something that should be on Blu-ray and DVD sometime in the very near future.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's been a year since that was announced, so it's kind of weird that it's still not out yet.
Yeah, that's Discotech, isn't it? So
Yeah, Discotech picked that up.
Nice. They always do good Blu-rays.
But we should probably just, introduce ourselves. Like I said, my name is Jim, and I've been watching anime since, officially, I guess, since the late 80s. I technically watched a bit of Voltron, a bit of Robotech, but I didn't really get interested in anime itself until the early 90s, when in the US on the Sci-Fi Channel they would show anime movies and OVAs on Saturday mornings. I can't recall the exact block's name, but the one that really captured my attention, that really showed me what anime was the Venus Wars. One of my earliest anime memories. And then, of course, soon after that, you got the TV boom period of when Dragon Ball came as Sailor Moon.
Yeah,
and Ronin
I
Warriors.
was a kid through that, so...
Yeah. And, of course, I watched a lot of Pokemon, too, growing up.
Of course.
But here's the thing. As much as I do like Dragon Ball, I never really liked Pokemon. I never really... that... And Digimon and those sorts of, toy-based stuff, because I still had those memories of the Venus Wars. Maybe a little bit of a Ninja Scroll in there, too, of what I thought anime was. And in the early 2000s, when companies like Manga Entertainment and Animigo and US Manga Corps were putting out... Well, I guess they didn't put it out all along on VHS, but I missed the whole VHS era because I didn't do a lot of... Because in my neck of the woods, we didn't have a lot of anime VHSs floating around. So I missed all that period. But when the DVDs started coming out, I was finally an adult with money, and I started buying the heck out of them. And so all of that older material from the 80s and the early 90s really appealed to me. Macross Plus, your Ghost in the Shell, your Akira, your Ninja Scroll, your... that sort of thing. And that's all I really was into, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's... My story's actually not dissimilar in that case. Mainly because, obviously, as a kid, was exposed to stuff that was imported and dubbed over. In my instance, it was Cartoon Network streaming stuff. Not streaming, even broadcasting. Dragon Ball was the big one, Dragon Ball Z by that point, and I think they got to Kai by that point. I have very vague memories of that one, but of course Pokemon, but also Beyblade and some other fad ones that I'm probably forgetting because, let's be honest, a lot of things like Beyblade and stuff, more or less the same.
There was a lot of stuff like that.
Yes, there was in the early 2000s.
Your Beyblade and your Zatch Bells and your...
Zatch Bell was one I don't recall. I might have seen it. But for me, my first real kind of exposure to, I guess, the realization that this wasn't just a thing that was made for kids with kind of weird, sometimes cringeworthy voice acting, was staying up until about 11 o'clock at night and watching Adult Swim, which at the time was being broadcast in the UK. Adult Swim has got a very patchy history here in the UK. Sometimes it's shown, sometimes it isn't.
Right, because you don't have Cartoon Network.
We do have Cartoon Network, but it depends on what satellite provider you have, and it's even then licensing a lot of stuff here in the UK for broadcasting through Adult Swim is not the same as it is licensing it in America to show an Adult Swim. So sometimes our schedule can be completely different. And sometimes Adult Swim just won't broadcast at all. They'll just run kids' cartoons on Cartoon Network all night. It's weird over here, is all I can say. But anyway, yeah, it was probably about 2004 that they showed the original Ghost in the Shell dub, and that was my first real exposure to thinking, wow, this is a much bigger thing than just Pokemon and Beyblades. Shortly after that, being the Transformers nut I was at the time, I stumbled across Evangelion. And I thought, giant robots, and I threw myself in at the deep end, and I haven't looked back since. And yes, I know they're not giant robots. I just didn't know that at the time.
Oh, of course, yes. But yeah, for a lot of people, Evangelion was their I wouldn't say entry drug, but their
it was the one that made me realize transition. I'd say Ghost in the Shell was my my entry drug, and then Evangelion was the thing that made me go, boom,
when everything opened up. Now, I wasn't an Evangelion fan when it first ran in North America. I actually was one of those people who thought it was a little bit pretentious, but that's because, like I said, at the time, I had a certain sense of what I wanted out of my anime, out of my action shows, and I thought Evangelion was playing it too smart for its own good. Like, it was trying
Fair enough.
But as I got older, I've realized that its subversions of those mecha shows, like, structure is the whole point, and I actually do appreciate it quite a bit now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it didn't really click with me.
Evangelion is one of those ones where every couple of years it seems to go reappraisal and then gets knocked down a couple of pegs. And I think those rebuild movies are part and parcel of it, to be honest. I think it's become such a big, sprawling thing now.
It is ironically more mainstream than it probably should be.
Yeah, that's the big irony, is by trying to create something that was subversive, Hideki Anno has accidentally created something that is pretty universally recognized.
Yes. It's kind of like Watchmen, except he got to keep his rights.
Oh, well, he got to keep his rights, but he sold his soul to the corporate devil anyway.
But anyway, so the purpose of this show is every episode we're basically gonna go back in time and talk about a particular OVA or short run series or movie film from that period of like the late 80s to the early 2000s. We're not going to stray too far out of that range, just because there's a lot of anime, and even right now there's a lot of anime coming out, and I enjoy a lot of current anime. But I just feel like there some of these older releases just don't get enough attention today, and maybe that's just me because I don't have a huge I don't have a huge anime like support base. It's really just me and a few online friends. But I just feel like these shows and movies are seen more as footnotes rather than the thing that really got me into anime, that made me a lifetime fan. So I just want to go back in time and just re-examine some of these shows and just see what appealed to me at the time, and do they still hold up today?
Yeah, it should definitely also be noticed that a lot of the stuff that Jim was brought up on was just kind of a little bit before my time, perhaps 5-10 years or so. But some of them I have explored in like my own time and stuff. But quite a lot, like in the case of today's discussion, which we're going to be getting to in the main topic in a bit, I will be seeing for the first time. So you're going to be seeing two sides of the fandom here.
Yeah, where I saw it close to release, he saw it today or yesterday for the first time.
Fresh in my memory.
Yes. But before we get to that, we should talk. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I think we've covered ourselves very adequately early on.
So, just before we get into the actual review, we should just talk a little bit about maybe some news, because there's some exciting anime news coming out that I'd like to just talk a little bit about.
Yeah.
In particular, we're recording this on the 4th. Whoa. We're recording this on the 4th of January, and tomorrow, the 5th, Netflix is going to be premiering Devilman Crybaby, the latest animated adaptation of Go Nagi's classic superhero?
Anti-hero, definitely.
Anti-hero. And the animation on that is looking damn good.
Damn good indeed.
And it's looking dark as hell, which is what Devilman definitely should be. And trippy psychedelic art style. I'm really digging the trailers. But what's interesting is that's just the tip of the iceberg, because apparently this year being the 50th, either last year was the 50th anniversary or this year is the 50th anniversary of Go Nagi. There's like a whole bunch of projects of based on his work coming out, including a new Mazinger Z movie, which it looks like a CGI movie, which can be hit or miss. But I do like Mazinger Z. It's called Mazinger Z Infinity, and I just found out that it's being licensed by Viz Media, so it will definitely be coming out in North America.
Sweet.
Which I'm sure I'll pick up.
I strongly suspect that they'll get licensed over here as well. A lot of the more new mechas get picked up for UK release. And it seems to be the one genre that we do get quite a lot of.
I was a big fan of Shin Mazinger Z, which came out back in like the mid 2000s, which was
I dug that one a lot too. I'm damned if I can remember a lot about it, but I seem to remember it was just absolutely crazy as hell.
It was a celebration of Gonagi, I think, and Mazinger Z in particular, but it was directed by the guy who did the Giant Robo OVA. You've probably never seen that.
Ironically, I've seen the Giant Robo TV series, but not the anime.
Yeah, Giant Robo the animation we'll get to at some point in this show, absolutely, because that's a show that's an OVA series that needs some love and some examination. But that series in particular was a celebration of giant robots and superheroes and all kinds of things. And Shin Mazinger Z, that series was very similar, but for Mazinger Z. This film looks like it's going to be more, a traditional Mazinger Z story, but I am really curious as to see it.
Yeah, as am I. It's just good stuff.
And we just got a new trailer for a new Cutie Honey. It's called Cutie Honey Universe. It's a new Cutie Honey series.
Yes.
I don't know a lot about Cutie Honey.
Honey is one of the ones I'm not as familiar in. It's always been a bit of a hard sell for me because it's weird because at the same time I love and I'm kind of cautious of the aesthetic. But because
the trailer's all about is just costume transformation.
Yeah, I really dig like kind of Honey's alter ego type thing because she is basically like 6 or 8 people at once.
Okay,
I think that's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's a bit too cheesecakey for me. So I mean, I'll probably check out the first episode.
Yeah,
but we'll see. I do find it obviously because this is the 50th anniversary celebration of a lot of Go Nagai's work. I don't know what about. What's 50th about? Is it 50th anniversary of Devilman?
I think it's whatever his first
breakout was. Because I could have sworn Devilman was 70, which is coming up to 50 actually. But I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's pretty, and the fact that it's called Cutie Honey Universe, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering whether all these projects are gonna, because shared universe projects are such a big thing right now. And Go Nagai was one of the few Japanese auteurs who made it very clear that the majority of his works shared a universe. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting. I mean, I know in previous Cutie Honey adaptations they've had Devilman appear in a couple of episodes. So
I see
that's happened.
Well, Devilman's also crossed over with
Mazinger Z. He had a movie.
Mazinger Z, he did, and also Cyborg 009.
Which isn't a Nagai work.
Is not, no.
But still, it's really cool. We should probably get to that one at some point. I mean, it's not retro. Yeah, it's not retro, but it's retro.
Yeah, it's a little bit too new for this show, but it is an OVA, and it is short. And it is good. At least I enjoyed it a lot.
Yes.
Although I think Devilman gets kind of glossed over in that. It's definitely more of a Cyborg 009 show.
Yeah.
Than a Devilman one, but it is. Was it animated by? I'm pretty sure it was animated by. Madhouse. So it looks real good.
Yes, it does look really good.
So yeah, that's just some some news of the stuff that's really like got my interest recently. Looking forward to a lot of that stuff. All right, so review section time.
Nice.
We are going to be talking about 2001's 3-episode OVA, Read or Die. Now, Read or Die has is really important to me as a anime enthusiast. Just because when I was it came out on DVD just as I was getting my first DVD player, and I was starting to buy up, anime DVDs. In particular, I was picking up stuff like, what was my first ones? I got it. Macross Plus, Ghost in the Shell, Akira, Royal Space Force, and this Read or Die was the first anime I was really recommended by a friend on the internet. I basically bought it sight unseen, and ever since, it's always just kind of been a cornerstone of my favorite animes of all time. For those who don't know, Read or Die is the Read or Die OVA is the animated version of Hideyuki Kurata's Read or Die light novel series, which the light novels began in the year 2000, ran for 12 or 13 volumes, which we'll talk about soon. But the anime was produced in 2001, I believe, as probably part of the promoting the light novels, because that's how it usually works in Japan, is that you get a hit and then you get the multimedia expansion to promote it. Of course, the North American or English-speaking countries in general never got the light novels. I did some research on this. They've never been translated. They haven't even been fan-translated. Again, there are 12 of them, possibly 13, because what happened was 11 of them came out, in a reasonable succession, and then volume 12 got delayed for almost 5 or 6 years. And only just came out in June 2016. And remember, this series started in 2000. Apparently a 13th was announced for the following year, but I have no confirmation if it ever came out.
Yeah.
So apparently, and volume 13 was supposed to be the final conclusion. So I don't know
13
what the
and lucky.
Yeah, I don't know what the current status of the light novels are.
Yeah, official translations of Japanese light novels is more or less non-existent over here. If it's not written by Nishiosen, you've got really little chance of it getting over. I mean, the Dirty Pair novels are probably some of the most famous sci-fi novels, short novels. We only got the first two.
Oh.
Which is like the first... Well, yeah, I think we got the first one, which is actually the first two fused together, and then we got the second one, which is the third and fourth fused together. Well, so we technically got four, but...
Prose translation is time-consuming, and it's hard to know what'll be a hit and what won't be. I think we're just getting Legends of the Galactic Heroes.
Yeah. That's been going for about a year now, and it's taken a long time. We're getting Bakano, and the Bakano anime came out 10 years ago now? It's been a while.
Yeah.
This stuff is, it's difficult enough getting anime out there. It's difficult enough getting manga out there. Stuff that isn't the real... if it's not a shonen thing, there's not a guarantee it's going to sell very well. So, particularly when it comes to light novels... I mean, there isn't even an official translation. Get this. There isn't an English translation of Grave of the Fireflies.
Ooh.
And that got adapted into arguably one of Ghibli's most well-known movies. So if that can't get an English translation, there's not much hope for anything else.
So, of course, without the light novels... So after the light novels, during the first year of their publication, Read or Die also got a manga, which ran for 4 volumes. But here's the thing, and this is based on my research, is that the light novels, the manga, and the OVA and the TV series that came out, all 3 of them, although they share characters and themes, they are unconnected. Characters' backstories are different. Events are different. They are not a cohesive whole.
No, they have the character IP, and that's it.
So you get the interesting thing where we in the English-speaking countries got the Read or Die OVA, this 3-episode spin-off, if you will, of, I think it's more connected to the manga than it is the light novels, but again, it's a bit vague. Basically, some details get lost or not mentioned in the OVA, which are big deals in the books. Yomiko Readman, who's the main character of the series overall, she has a best friend who doesn't make an appearance at all in the OVA, but is the main character of the
Is she
TV
the one who's
series
mentioned in the first episode? Is like posting the post-it notes all over the apartment,
Yes.
and then we never
Yes.
see her. I wondered where that was going. Okay,
that's her character is named Nene.
yes,
And her character is basically completely absent from the OVA, and is the main character of the TV series that follows.
okay. So
And
it doesn't go nowhere. It just goes nowhere in the OVA. Okay.
And Yomiko has a somewhat romantic relationship with the previous her predecessor, who is also her trainer, but he never makes an appearance. I think he gets name dropped once in the TV series. It's been a while since I watched it, but basically his character is like completely absent. So yeah, so you got these basically not only three, because the manga, after the 4-volume manga came out, that was about Yomiko Readman's character in the British Library. There was a spin-off manga called Reader Dream, which is about Reader Dream is almost a completely different universe.
Yeah, I'm told it's not connected. I'm told Yomiko...
The manga's not.
The Reader Dream, I'm told Yomiko makes a cameo in it, and then that's it. So...
But the three main characters of that series get incorporated back into the main Read or Die series in the TV series, and they also become main characters of that. So it's very unusual how diffused this franchise has become within its own franchise. And we, as English speakers, only got a very small bit of any of this. We got the OVA, the TV series, and the 2 manga runs, and that's it. And since then, there's been another spin-off manga that never got translated, and as best I can tell, has not been scanned at all, called Read or Die Rehabilitation, which was a one volume short story in like a post-apocalyptic future. I'm really interested to read it, but there's no way to do so, or at least not without, I guess, buying the official book, but I haven't been able to track it down yet. But, so just with all that background, we're going to be talking about the OVA specifically. Because the OVA's got a lot to unpack, and as much as I like the TV series and want to talk about it,
it's a little too long to dissect in a whole
hour. A little bit too long for the show. For
Yeah.
reviews. I mean, we may cover it in the future. We may cover a couple episodes in the future.
I'm probably going to sit down and watch it.
Yeah.
So.
And if he watches it, maybe we'll talk about it then.
Yeah. That'd be sweet. So, did you revisit it recently, or...
I rewatched it. I
rewatched it recently
in preparation for this episode.
Sweet. So we'll start off with your take, as obviously someone who's watched it several times before, and then I'll kind of interject...
Yeah, I've seen it about 5 times.
No, so you've got plenty of it. I've only seen it the once. I briefly glanced over several episodes whilst I was waiting for you to sign on. But, yeah, I've only really seen it the once. So, if you want to give your first
what's your hot take? What's your first take?
My hot take is that this is actually kind of amazing.
Okay.
If you were to... You could almost imagine this as being something Alan Moore would write up. Like, it's very League of Gentlemen-esque.
Really?
League of Gentlemen-esque, obviously without all the... well, if you were to substitute the public domain characters with historical figures...
Mm-hmm. Yes, because all the villains in this are clones of historical figures,
yes.
Which I have researched and created a list of, which we'll go over later. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It's... But, of course, our main characters, they're not, they're neither public domain characters nor the historical figures.
They're very original characters, but I get the idea of what you're going for, because they're superpowered individuals who are that's what I'm looking for.
Part of not an Avengers as in the Marvel comics, but as in the British spy TV show sense,
Yeah,
agents.
they work for the British Library, which in this universe is like one of the most powerful organizations on Earth, because in this universe books are power.
Unlimited power.
Yeah, words are power. Power can be, like, in a real literal sense, power can be transmitted through written words, just notes and margins. Basically, the most brilliant people on Earth can create things that are like, if read by an ordinary person, can be super dangerous.
Everything's a forbidden library. Everything's a forbidden section.
Right. Everything's got, forbidden books, forbidden knowledge. It's almost got a Cthulhu-esque tinge to it, but not quite. Because some of these books, just by reading them, they make you kill yourself.
Oh, God, could you imagine if the Necronomicon existed in this universe?
Yeah, and Yomiko would want to read it. Because that's Yomiko's whole gimmick, is that she is a bibliophile. She loves reading. It's all she wants to do. Mm-hmm. But she also has the power to, I want to say, telekinetically control paper as a medium and basically produce
objects and edges.
Objects, blades, armor. She's like the Green Lantern, except she uses paper. And that and that right there is one of the big appeals of the show, is that your main character's got a really interesting power. It's really powerful power, but it's got clear limitations. It's not very good in water. It's not very good in fire. And if she runs out of ammo, she's somewhat screwed. So she's not all powerful, but when she is on top, she can be one of the most powerful.
It's also worth noting that she's not athletic.
Oh yeah,
she's not
she
physically
is
fit.
The worst.
Yeah, she's
at moving around.
She's a klutz. She's not the klutz of the series, but she is a klutz.
But she can fight, and when she has to, she does.
I just really enjoyed the fight sequence in the final episode where she went. I mean, each of the 3 OVAs has its own really, really brilliant, quite unique and memorable fight sequences. But I really particularly enjoyed the one where Yomiko goes up against the samurai Genai Hiraga, who is a historical figure. He was an actual individual who, in this universe, can produce lightsaber-esque electrical. Not only can he can levitate and stuff. He's a fucking Jedi in this OVA.
Sure.
Well, not a Jedi, maybe a Sith. But there was a really, really good fight going on there, and basically Yomiko, she was just clinging to everything because she's not physically fit enough to prance about and back whirl like he can.
Right.
So it was very clearly showing that although she has the natural skill, she doesn't have the physical ability to keep up with it.
She's not very graceful.
No.
But she gets the job done. And
I like that infallibility in a main character.
Yeah, and there's that too. Yeah, she's definitely not... She's easily distracted. She's very flighty, which I guess is just another term for distracted.
One-track
minded.
minded.
But she's loyal, but she's not like a soldier.
Yes.
She's a very interesting main character, in terms, even in
deeply flawed.
Deeply, I don't know about deeply flawed. She's a little bit superficial because all she wants to do is read. That's like her everything. Nothing else matters to her.
Oh, yeah, she's an escapist.
Everything she does is to reach her primary goal of reading more and getting her hands on rare books. That's why she works for the British Libraries, that she has the opportunity to read these books she wouldn't otherwise be able to. That's like her whole justification.
Yeah.
Of what she does.
But the pull-up...
While also being like insanely powerful, asset to the government. Of course, she's also Japanese, but she works for the British Library, so that's the other thing about the show. There's
a lot of globe-trotting. There's a lot of...
Right.
Yeah.
Thematically, this show could be described, I would say, as a spy thriller.
Well, you can even tell that down if we talk about the opening for a bit. The theme tune is effectively a Bond send-up.
Sure. And it's generally you get a montage, and every episode has a different intro. Same music, but new art assets.
Yes, new visuals.
Which is basically creating a montage of events that don't actually happen in the show, but suggest like car chases and snipers and all the stuff you would find in a spy thriller. Because that's definitely that's the tone that the show's going for, with a superhuman superhero aspect to it, because all of your main spy characters, Yomiko, who has the telekinetic paper thing going on, you've got Nancy, who's the more traditional, skilled, sexy super spy.
Mm-hmm. She's effectively, I mentioned the Avengers, she's basically Diana Riggs' character from the Avengers. Or Black Widow from the other Avengers.
Yeah. You say the other Avengers. Yeah. And Emma Peel-esque.
Yes.
But she has the superpower of being able to phase through objects. Pass through things. And then there's Drake, who from the outside kind of looks like a muscly gun guy. You know, the traditional mercenary for hire. I think it's implied that he has super strength.
It definitely appears that he has, if not super strength, then durability.
Yeah.
Because he basically gets thrown off a skyscraper at one point in this, and he just climbs back up.
He also tears a robot apart with his bare hands.
Yes.
And that in the first episode when Yomiko creates a big paper airplane to like catch up with the flying.
Oh, he throws it.
He chucks it
with
so
both of them in it.
Yeah, two grown women. You know, I'm sure that's not super challenging for a strong person, but chuck them off a building, with a reasonable velocity to achieve flight. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's implied he's super strong. But Drake's a cool character because he's the straight man in all of this.
He's the one who's always, it's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Giant stag beetle, really? Giant cyborg stag beetle. But, yeah, he basically is. He's the Hellboy character. He's the one who's going, wow, my life is surreal. And he's always talking about his daughter. Does his daughter ever appear in the TV show?
She's always more of a character...
who's mentioned?
Well, no, basically she gets mentioned a lot. She's his motivation.
Oh, okay. But she never actually appears. So.
I don't think so. Or at least I don't recall she does. I may be wrong about that, but Drake's not really a main character. He's a supporting character, so they don't delve too deep into his background or in terms of like putting they don't put the camera on him that much. For that sort of thing. But he does come back. He's definitely in the TV series. So yeah,
the main trio, let's talk about like the two head office figures, the M and the Q of the series. Who would be Joker, who has the most peculiar English accent I've ever heard. We should probably clarify. We watched the dub.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
You did.
I watched the dub. Well, that's good then, because we have the perspective of...
I mean, let's talk about the dub real quick. Just real quick.
It's not bad.
Back when I was first, of course, getting into anime in the early 2000s, I listened to dubs. And to be fair, Read or Die has a decent dub. About 10 years after that, I basically decided, sub only. I'm a sub only guy. And so going back, this is like the first time I've watched the show subbed. Yeah. The last couple of times I always watched it dubbed. And so listening to it subbed was an interesting experience because it was almost like watching it for the first time.
Yeah. I've pretty much got the same story. I was exposed mainly to dubs. Ghost in the Shell was dubbed. Evangelion was dubbed. Gundam Wing was dubbed. Cowboy Bebop was dubbed because that was another one of the early ones. And to this day is... Cowboy Bebop and Black Lagoon are the only two that I will insist on watching the dub over the subs, because the dubs for those two series are really, really good.
And you know what? I agree. They are really good, but there's still not a lot of reason to listen to dubs if you got a choice.
I don't know.
But that's just me.
I can't justify why those two, other than they are just really good dubs. To the point where I actually feel they fit the mood better than the Japanese version. But other than that, I am primarily subs as well. I mean, the only time I'll usually watch a dub is for hilarity version. Like, have you ever tried watching XL Saga with the dub?
Oh, you know what? The first time I ever watched it was dubbed. Yeah, that one's hilarious.
That is hilarious. But no, mostly dubbed. Subs, even. But that being said, I do agree. The Read or Die has a perfectly serviceable dub.
So you found Joker's accent to be weird?
Exaggerated. Even by posh toff Southerner standard English. It's exaggerated.
I see.
It's like me pulling on a hillbilly accent for someone who lives in, I don't know, Montreal.
Uh-huh.
Just don't do
Very
it.
interesting.
I don't know. It's peculiar, but it's not that bad. It's certainly a much better dub than any of the Hellsing dubs were, because Integra and those had the worst English accent imaginable.
Well,
in fact, all the English characters in Hellsing had. In fact, Hellsing's a really good comparison to the show, other than being set in England.
Because being set in England,
yeah.
Because that's the thing. You're British, and this is set in this. Hilariously, although the main character is Japanese, it is primarily based around the British Secret Service. How about all those tea references? Would you delay dealing with the fate of the world by having tea first?
Milk goes in first. She made it wrong.
I see.
Oh God, I've just started a flame war. Yeah, we probably would do. We're the one nation in the world where the apocalypse could be happening, and we'll go just put the kettle on and talk about it. But then I'm a coffee drinker, so
I got it.
I did find that kind of hilarious. Just go, I'm sorry it took so long to make. It's just kind of like, you made a lot of cups. It takes a while, unless you've got a proper sized kettle. But I do find that hilarious. That tea. Oh. But no, we're not like that. Stop it. That's racist. It kind of isn't, but no, I get it. It's funny. It's a stereotype.
So overall, what did you feel about the show?
Overall, I dug it. I dug it a lot. I dug the aesthetic. I like this kind of this is a specific style, and we've talked about something like this before. It's not steampunk. It's not even particularly punkish, but it's got these kind of 18th century aesthetics to it.
Yep.
That, when intertwined with kind of the early 2000s looks, the bulky cell phones. I mean, what I found hilarious was Joker at one point pulls out a cell phone that is an old wooden handled, ear to mouth.
It's wireless.
It's a wireless. It's hilarious. I really dig that stuff because it doesn't go the full self-aware steampunk aesthetic. It has a specific, it's postmodernism almost, but I'm not sure what it would be called. I really dig all that. I really loved the characters, and I really do love how it's a self-contained story, and it does actually have actual tragedy, because we should probably get into a little bit about what Nancy's deal is.
Yeah, Nancy is introduced in the first episode. She, at first, you're not supposed to know whose side she's on. It's suggested that she's on the enemy side, and that when she meets Yomiko, that she, it's going to spur conflict. But then she's introduced as basically Yomiko's partner, and that she was undercover, trying to recover this book. Because the whole plot is there are these 2 volumes of a book that are one of a kind, that the British Library wants to get so that they can protect them. And then there's this other organization trying to get their hands on them first. They get 1 volume of it right away by
burning the White House to the ground.
They burn the White House down by mistake because they're trying to find the Library of Congress, which is up the roads a ways.
I do find that kind of hilarious. Though.
Then they burn that down too.
Yes.
Basically to cover their tracks. So they get the first volume that way, and then the second volume, I guess, has gotten to the hands of a very, obscure collector, and so Yomiko is sent to buy it, and she doesn't have any money, but she basically gets it loaned to her, and then it turns out the book is the one the British Library wants, and Nancy was the one who was assigned to go get it. Or was she? Because then Nancy turns up, doing her Emma Peel thing, and then all these superpowered freaks start turning up to steal Yomiko's book, which we should talk about. I mean, in the opening sequence, we see that electric samurai guy,
Jenna Hiraga.
Yep, and his whole deal is that his original, because these guys are all clones. They're all called Aijin. They are clones of historical figures that, they're basically a discarded cloning program that was used to, how do I phrase this? It was a research branch in order to help preserve the life of a character called the Gentleman, who is basically the head of the British Library, who is super old and super cybernetic and probably going to die of old age. So, and he's like a repository of like all this knowledge and that. So a lot of what the British Library is about is basically preserving his life because of how important he is. And the cloning program was one of the failed attempts to extend his life.
So now all his creations have kind of gone rogue.
So basically, yeah, all these creations that were part of that program got loose or got hold of their own technology so they could like control their own destiny. It's almost a Blade Runner situation. And that
Good, yes.
Where all these replicants have basically decided to assert self-awareness against their creators.
Sadly, none of them are Rutger Hauer.
And their solution is kill everybody on Earth because
they have a giant submersible Lovecraftian monstrosity. We should probably talk about like all because there's not a massive list of these iJins. So
no,
I've got
a list.
Yeah,
I've got a list, and I know who they are, or mostly who they are.
We've mentioned Gen Hiraga.
Yep, he was an
electric samurai in this version.
Yep, well, he apparently was had a lot of interest in electricity during the Edo period, and basically he had one of those old style boxes that basically creates static electricity and just demonstrates static electricity. So he was great at showing that off.
It's a static orb.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of thing. So basically, the show extrapolates that idea into like electric weaponry,
which is pretty cool. He levitates all over the show and sets the White House on fire. It's cool.
Yeah. So the green weirdo on the giant mechanical bug.
Yeah, he's an interesting one.
Fabre.
Jean-Henri Fabre.
Yeah, he was a French entomologist who didn't have any classical science training, but basically defined how entomology study would be conducted into the modern era. Yeah, so he's all about bugs, and throughout the show, basically he gets killed 3 times, and every time he gets killed, he molts and becomes a different character.
Yeah, he starts off as an old man. Comes back as a kid, and then comes back as a slightly older kid.
A really weird-looking older kid.
He becomes a Kamen Rider mutant.
Sure.
Yeah, it's that one's kind of freaky, and then he dies moments after that. So
yeah,
he's not coming back for the TV show. The next one is. The next one's kind of going into spoiler territory, but we've kind of already discussed Nancy's backstory, so we should probably just go into
Wait, which one are you talking about?
Matahari?
Oh, no, I was going to talk about the guy with the glider.
Oh, Otto Lindhall.
Yeah.
Lindhall.
He was one of the early pioneers of gliders before the Wright brothers invented power flight.
Yeah, and in this version he's Vulture.
Yeah, basically. It's not much of a glider if you got a rocket engine attached to it, really.
No. And probably flying around with hand grenades attached to is not a good idea.
Then getting into the second episode, there's a Genjo Sanjo.
That one is weird because he's a fictional character.
Well, no, he's a real character.
Oh.
Or Genjo's name itself is a fictionalized version of a real-life person.
Oh. Because this is Journey to the West, isn't it?
Well, that's what it gets to, but Journey to the West was based on a previous series of works about a Buddhist priest who traveled to India, basically, and wrote down his journey, and then that became the basis of Journey to the West, and then this resurrected version of that priest takes on all the powers and aesthetic of the Journey to the West character.
It doesn't take on any of the monkey aspects, though.
Well, not really, no.
Because unfortunately,
he's got the power pole and the fire breathing and the flying cloud.
Yes, he takes out a satellite. That was amazing.
He also may be part Moses.
Yes,
because he
was a
parts
fun
the
character.
sea.
It was kind of annoying that he was disposable in the second. He's a second act villain.
Well, he takes up the whole episode, so really he's like the big bad. He's like one of the most powerful guys we meet in this show.
Yeah. Especially when you compare the next ones to turn up. I mean, still, Stephen Wilcox is a kind of... He's just kind of there.
Yeah,
I mean,
he never even gets... He never gets called by name as a character. but you see his name on the
machinery,
steam-powered equipment machinery, which
he worked with Otto to produce the glider.
Yeah, but he was the one who built the rocket, the base.
Yes,
the floating submersible base,
the Micro Unicron.
And then, of course, we come to the villain of our piece, Ikkyu, who is also a Buddhist monk, but apparently he's a little complicated for me, poor Westerner, because he's apparently got like cultural roots in Japan that go way beyond anything I could even describe. Basically, he's very well known culturally.
Yes,
he brought Zen ideas to Japan and incorporated them more into
highly
the culture.
Influential monk,
highly such,
who doesn't obviously. We're not historians, unfortunately,
No.
and this was the first I'd heard of him.
Yeah, and why he goes bad in the show, I guess, is just sort of a twist on like what he represents.
Oh yeah, his ideology might not work out in the modern day.
Yeah, or something along those lines. But I don't know. He's introduced late in the series, so you don't get to know him very quickly. But as a megalomaniac, he's pretty easy to understand, at least as as far as the show goes. But his actual, his roots, his clone body, it's got a lot to it. Is all. And of course, then there's Beethoven, who of course is
doesn't have a single spoken line.
Yeah, he's a clumsy Saint Bernard, of course.
Yeah. That movie never happened. But Beethoven is just a terrible comic anyway. But anyway, moving on. The actual Beethoven, he is actually really
comics.
interesting.
No, not Marmaduke.
Oh,
Beethoven.
Beethoven was
Same idea though. Beethoven's very much a Marmaduke ripoff.
I got my dogs mixed up. They're not Garfield. I'm sorry, and they're not Fred Bassett.
So yeah,
the actual Beethoven, he produces this super weapon.
Yes, this is what the whole OVA is based around. Is basically, it's not so much the books that were important; it's the fact that he had owned the books in life and had written in the margins this song that, if listened to by humans, will cause you to kill yourself. And so the whole plan is to get the books, get the song, have Beethoven play it.
Ed Sheeran got a hold of it. It was his last album. Ed Sheeran? Oh, the joke's not worked.
No?
You don't know who Ed Sheeran is. Don't worry, it's fine.
Don't.
That's cool. We'll cut this bit out. I'll explain later.
The plan is to have this Beethoven clone play this song, and everyone on Earth will kill themselves.
Yeah.
It's Zen.
It's pretty grim when you think about it. It's Ivan Ooze's plan. Make everyone jump to your death. But, Beethoven was a tad wasted for me. I think we're supposed to assume that he and Wilcox, even though they don't get death scenes like the others, just kind of died. I mean, I think Beethoven never actually left the rocket when it exploded.
Oh, no, he went to space.
And he never returned. I don't know, maybe he's in a TV series. But does this trend of historical figures, because with the Aijins no longer, their base of operations is gone, are they present in the television show? Or is this OVA exclusive?
I haven't watched it in like 10 years,
but
I'm pretty sure no. I'm pretty sure it's his own thing.
So that bodes well in the OVA as like a self-contained story.
It's very self-contained. I mean, anyone could watch this without watching. I mean, that's the kind of the testament to it, where it has the light novels and the mangas.
And the anime.
Well, no. Let me finish my thought.
Sorry, go on.
You have the original light novels and you have the mangas and the two separate mangas, but the OVA itself is a completely standalone work that you can watch and you can enjoy, and that's all you'll ever need. The TV series is a direct sequel to the OVA. The series, by the way, is called ROD the TV.
Yeah.
Not Read or Die the TV, not Read or Dream the TV.
It's just ROD.
ROD the TV. And the reason why it's called that is because it is taking the Read or Die and the Read or Dream and merging them together without necessarily being either of them.
I get it now. Interesting.
Yeah. But it is a direct sequel to this OVA. So if you want to watch the TV series, you do kind of want to watch the OVA first. Because when it starts out not as connected, but by the end, it's very connected. And the TV series is actually really good. I enjoyed it a lot, and it's a lot of the same sort of thing you find in the OVA, although it is no, it's mostly the same.
Stretched out, yeah. But of course, if they've got to, it must have several story arcs, or are they all episodic?
Well, it's got it like most good series. It's got a overall series arc, but yeah, it's got a bunch of standalone episodes and a couple of multi-parters. But overall, the whole series is one story.
Nice.
I like it a lot, and I think it's a good follow-up to this OVA. But this OVA I think is ultimately superior because it is a tighter package. Even though it's got a little less character stuff going on. Character-wise, this OVA's main thrust is the Yomiko Nancy relationship, because Nancy, spoiler alert, turns out to be a double agent, which makes sense because she is also a Aijin clone, based on the historical figure of Mata Harari, who was apparently a World War I spy, although apparently in the historical context she was like a really bad one. Although it was glamorized a lot in the media. Yeah, basically she started out as a German spy, tried to pivot to being a double agent French spy, but eventually the French executed her anyway for being a German spy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Nancy is apparently the reincarnation of this woman in the more glamorous way of being a really effective super spy.
Femme fatale.
Femme fatale. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I dig all that.
So yeah, the clone connections are interesting, but they are played very loose. And actually, this is the first time I really went in depth on who all these guys were.
You don't need to know. You really don't.
Oh, you do not need to know. But the first few times I watched it, I never did the research. And now finding this out about Nancy's character actually makes it a little bit more interesting. But it is ultimately, superficial details.
Honestly, Mata Hari and Beethoven are the only ones that people are gonna, most people aren't gonna know who
they're either
Ikki
Japanese,
or
they're either Japanese culture or they're really obscure.
Yeah, unless you are an entomologist, you're not gonna know who Jean Henry Faber is.
But it does add a lot of flavor to the proceedings.
And I think Genjo Hanzo has a visual recognition, so even if you don't know the specifics...
Have you seen Dragon Ball?
Everyone has seen Dragon Ball. As soon as that cloud comes out, you knew exactly where this came from. Which is what confused, because I thought it was a fictional, but apparently it's a lot more complicated, as you say.
Exactly. There's layers to it. Which was one of those things that sort of confused me when I first watched it, is because I got the impression that all these people were historical, but this guy is very clearly based on a fictional character. What's the deal there? So I, finally digging a little deeper, now it makes sense.
Yeah, it's a convoluted amalgamation.
Exactly.
Speaking of fictional characters, though, what's your opinion on the president in this series? Especially the
you watched the dub, so you got that a lot. That's the one thing the dubs got that the subtitle tracks don't.
Yeah,
is just how much of a George Bush stand-in that guy is.
Yeah, it's not just that though. Especially considering in light of recent events or recent things that have been put on Twitter, the whole nuclear missile big red button on their desk thing.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, that does have.
It's
shades of our own time.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I found that funny.
But that character is very much
George
played
Bush,
up to be a very pathetic George Bush Jr.
Yeah, that was. I did find that hilarious though.
With
he
a
even
great
pisses
running
himself
gag.
twice.
Yeah, twice. I think he's like 4 times. Yeah, the Americas are not treated very respectfully in this series.
Oh no, you have a fleet that gets nuked.
Ooh, yes. Lasered.
It gets lasered to death. And it was amazing. Yeah.
So I'm going to say the final verdict, Read or Die, is a thumbs up.
Yep.
Series. Holds up animation-wise, holds up. Story-wise, I don't know how hard it is to get a hold of anymore. I'm not sure if it's streaming. I know there was a Blu-ray box set that collected the OVA and the TV series in upscale HD. That was released through Aniplex, but being an Aniplex release, it was like $200 and is now
extremely
out of print.
limited.
Yeah,
they did that for Bubblegum Crisis, and it's not easy to get a hold of.
Yeah. So, and of course, it was published by the OVA was published by Manga Entertainment in North America, which I think is who published it in the UK for you.
They did, and it's still in print. Well, it's not in print, but it's still available.
That's the thing. I don't think it's currently licensed, because again, Aniplex, for whatever reason, once their licenses expire, they are not sending them out again. They really want to sell everything themselves. They're kind of a pain in the ass for that reason. So yeah, basically the license is currently held hostage by Aniplex.
Yeah. In terms of licensing in the UK, I think it's still licensed by Manga, and because typically when it comes to licensing, if a company loses the license to something over here, it is pulled from retail, not pulled from shelves, but it's pulled from retail websites. So you might be able to find it on the shelves, but you might not
really that drastically,
except for Amazon. It's still available for Amazon, but in the case of Read or Die, it is still available from places like The Hut and HMV online.
I think I would think it just get delisted if they ran out of stock, because when things go out of print, it doesn't mean you can't sell it. It only means that you can't warehouse it anymore. So basically, the distributor has to destroy all their copies, but retailers don't. At least that's my understanding. At least in North America.
I don't know. It seems to vary, because this release came out in like 2005 for the OVA. So whether it's still in print is debatable, but I'm fairly certain that Manga Entertainment still owned the distribution rights here for the OVA. The TV series has never released a release here. Not
in the UK, because Geneon released that in North America.
Oh, okay.
And though you guys did get Geneon releases, sometimes you didn't get all of them.
No. It's very, very slapdash here at the best of times.
Yeah, there's no Read or Die streaming on Crunchyroll, so...
Damn it.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, Read or Die. Excellent. Holds up. I enjoyed it. I think you will too.
Brilliant thumbs up. Yeah, definitely. And as we already said, I will be checking out the TV series at some point, so you can expect us to talk about that in future, possibly.
So, for our next episode that we will do after this one, I think we're going to do something that Zach is suggesting.
Yes.
Something kind of unique.
Yes, it's a very peculiar little OVA series. It only ran for 3 episodes in 1987 before being summarily and prematurely discontinued. It was never completed. It is the cult sci-fi mecha classic Hyper Combat Unit Dangai-O. It's a personal favourite of mine. Or guilty pleasure, depends on how I feel.
And you guys got an official release for that.
We did. We got a butchered official release.
I don't think we got one.
I think you may have done. Just let me check Blu-ray.com.
I am investigating now.
Blu-ray.com is not always the best for DVDs, though. Sometimes they still don't have a lot of stuff on there.
Hold on. How do you spell Dangai-O?
You guys did get Dangai-O, but it is currently out of print and selling for crazy money. You got it from Manga. You got it from Manga Entertainment as well.
Oh, they released it too. I did not realize that.
We'll go into detail when we talk about it in the next episode. But basically, official releasings for Hyper Combat Unit Dangai-O, it would seem in English language in general, were massively butchered, which means that unfortunately we are probably going to have to use fan-translated dubs for this next one. Whereas we use the official manga release for Read or Die. But wherever possible, do support the official releases.
Always.
I want more of it.
Even if they make it real hard.
Just support it. Support it with all your wallet.
So, thanks for listening, everyone. I know this was our first episode. We've got some growing pains to get through. If you enjoyed what you listened to, of course, I don't have an email set up because we don't have a name yet.
We'll work it out for the next episode.
I will fill all this in post-production.
In the description box. Or, yeah, as you say, put an edit in. We can work
But
around it at some point.
But thank you for joining us, and I hope you join us again next time when we give this Dan Gaio thing a go.
And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.